Crypto holders, we have something very interesting happening right now that you need to be paying extremely close attention to. I would actually go as far as to say that this is the most important thing happening in crypto this weekend, and I'm going to tell you exactly why. So, over the last week or two, I've told you all that I'm watching this descending structure here for Bitcoin. And I've told you this structure is going to determine the fate of this crypto market. I've said over and over and over again that if Bitcoin's price is capable of breaking to the top side of this descending structure, it's going to bring the rest of the crypto market with it. And what we have been in is just a casual, cool reset. But if Bitcoin can defy the odds and pull to the downside out of this structure, that's when things are going to get chaotic. And that's when you might start to see this crypto market really falling and things may get really ugly for that time being. Now, on the bright side, I've said this multiple times, that Bitcoin's percent chances of breaking to the downside of this structure and staying below it are much lower than it breaking towards the upside. It's almost an 80-20, 75-25, meaning that Bitcoin only has a 20-25% chance of breaking to the downside and staying to the downside. So it's not the most likely scenario, but it is a scenario that is worth paying attention to because 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 times, this is a possibility. Now, what we can see knowing this is if we zoom into Bitcoin very closely, what is happening is Bitcoin is trying to break down. It is clearly trying to break through the downside of the descending channel, and you can see those bulls putting up an absolute fight to keep it above it. What you can see is that we had a second right here where we closed below it, but the bulls immediately stepped in, fought through the support, brought that thing back up, and even now as the bears are trying to force it back down, these bulls are stepping in and they're stepping in hard. You go over to the 1 hour RSI and look at the turn and strength here. This thing is just chopping along. There's an absolute battle happening right now as the bulls are fighting their little hearts out, trying to stop this bad boy from breaking to the downside. And it is incredibly important that they do, in my opinion, because if this thing does continue downwards, things can start to get ugly. And again, I know over the last 2 days, I've been saying things in these videos that you might not want to hear, but I don't care what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And what you need to hear is that if Bitcoin's price loses support here, things might get ugly. And so knowing that that is a possibility, let me tell you exactly what I'm doing right now. And let me tell you exactly what I'm preparing for in the worst case scenario. So what I'm doing right now is I actually am buying Bitcoin. And I know you might be like, Tyler, what the heck? Why are you buying Bitcoin? Well, the reason I'm buying Bitcoin is because my strategy remains the same. I will buy Bitcoin in the light green zone. I will sell Bitcoin at the top of the black zone until something breaks, until it either breaks down or breaks up. And considering by the time I woke up this morning, we had recovered back into this light green zone, I'm not going to let that scare me. I'm still going to buy it. Now, am I buying a lot? Oh, no, no way. But I'm buying enough that if we do get a move up here, it's some nice profits, just like I did right here. Bought it, sold it, take some of that profit, reinvest it right here. Bought it, sold it. That's the goal. That's the game plan. Because the fact that we weren't able to stay below it right here is actually a pretty good sign. And it does mean that the bulls are here. And I guess we'll just see if they're able to hold this thing or not. That's the question of the day. Now, that's game plan number 1. I'm going to buy just a little bit of Bitcoin and I'm going to let this puppy rest. And I'm going to see what happens next. And if the worst case scenario does present itself, in which Bitcoin's price does start to tank, this is exactly what I'm going to do. Now, before we get into it, guys, do not forget that if you are trading Bitcoin yourself, first of all, be careful. But second of all, you can use the link in the description down below to head over to BTCC. This is where I do the vast majority of all my trading every single day. And if you do sign up specifically with my link, you're going to get up to $10,000 in bonuses and lower trading fees. I explain all of the bonuses in this video right here, and you can get a little bit more information about the exchange in this video. So check out the link down below. It's one of the best exchange deals that there is on YouTube. So check it out. Let me know what you think. Now, moving along, okay, what will I do if Bitcoin's price starts to really, really tank? So my plan is to bet on the reversal. That's my plan. Now, this is where I'm going to start taking some risks. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. This is when I'm going to start taking some risks. And this might be a bad idea. I'm going to be fully transparent. This might be a bad idea, but there's just something in my gut that says bet on the reversal. And what I mean by that is I think, keywords, I think, by the way, this is not financial advice. Do and say whatever you want. But I think that if Bitcoin's price loses the bottom side of this descending structure, it's going to try to come back down to some macro levels of support, use that support to break back into the structure. That's what I think is going to happen. Because what I don't think is I don't think Bitcoin's just going to do this. I don't think that we're going to nuke. I don't even think we're going to break macro structure. Like I'm not really convinced that Bitcoin's going to fall below $98,000. I don't think Bitcoin is in a worse place right now than it was right here. I don't really see it. I think institutions would agree with me. Institutions aren't really jumping ship. Institutions are still accumulating and holding. We're going into the middle to end of Q3, Q4. We have all of these things that could be stimulus. We still will see interest rates get cut at some point. There's a possibility that interest rates do get cut after that horrific jobs report, which was a weird thing, by the way. All of these things tell me that we are still in a position where Bitcoin can see growth. So for me, I don't see a reason as to why Bitcoin would come down and break macro market structure. So my plan, which is a risky one, but my plan is that if Bitcoin does break structure here, I'm going to bet on the reversal by accumulating pretty large amounts of Bitcoin at macro points of support, macro levels of support, the levels that I believe it's the most likely that Bitcoin will try to reverse off of. Now, you may say, Tyler, okay, where are those supports at? I got you. So the first level of support is going to be the golden zone that we just recently broke. Okay. So what you got to remember is we just recently broke through this big old golden zone just right here between $109,000 and $106,000. This is going to be my primary point of accumulation. That's the level where I would expect Bitcoin to really put up a fight. So that's where I'm going to do my first big amount of purchasing right here. Let me go ahead and make this all golden. 1 second. That looks good. And then let's do it like, yeah, there you go. So that's going to be my first key point of accumulation. And let's just go ahead and throw a little price label on that bad boy. Boom. Let's just do it right there. We'll throw one there, and then we'll do one right here. There we go. Okay, so this is my first big point of accumulation. My second one would now be the downside Fibonacci zone, which I'm not going to get super deep into how to find that in today's video, but what you can see is there is a correlation between the bottom side of the top side Fibonacci zone, which again, I know I'm getting a little confusing here, but this top side Fibonacci zone from this move, the bottom side of that is at 106. The top side of the bottom side Fibonacci zone from this move to this move now rests at 106 as well, but there's also one at 103 right here. Okay, boom. So my current strategy is to then go in right there and start trying to jump back on to some sort of, there we go, boom, some sort of reversal off of that level. So I have 3 levels mapped out clearly. I have this top side golden Fibonacci zone and the bottom side golden Fibonacci zone at 109, 106, and 103. These are my 3 levels. And I believe that if Bitcoin's price pulls back towards these support levels, I think it's going to try to reverse and try to re-enter back into this channel. And again, I'm taking a risk. I know. Trust me, I know. But I don't know. I just don't go against what my gut says. Because when I look at the 4-hour RSI, guys, we're fully overextended. I mean, we've now gone down to a lower point on the RSI than we've been since, what, April? Yeah, since Bitcoin went to 74K. Think about that. This is when all the tariff stuff was really scary. Dude, we're not that bad. Like, right now is not as bad as that. You know what I mean? So I look at this 4-hour RSI. We're fully overextended. You look at the daily RSI. The daily RSI is at a 42. And I think if we get down to like 103, that daily RSI is going to plummet back to like 27, 26, which again is where we were back at some of these lower levels and will be one of the lowest levels we've been to in years, right? And so in my opinion, I think that Bitcoin's price, if pulling back towards 109, 106, or 103, I think it's going to try to use those support levels as a key level of support to try to bounce upwards and try to re-break back to the top side. We're going to have pushed so heavily into the bottom side of the Bollinger Bands. We're going to have seen that full correction here on Elliott's waves, which could easily be, of course, that little micro ABC, right? Maybe that little corrective wave there. But I don't particularly believe that this 5th wave has to be over. I know Elliott's waves is calling for that A correction, but it's only calling for that if this is a breakdown in structure. Whereas I believe that this easily could be a continuation upwards that continues this 5th wave before we do actually see that macro C wave towards the downside, that 3-leg breakdown. So to me, it's kind of one of those things where I'm taking a gamble, I'm taking a risk. Maybe I'm getting a little perma bullish. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm just not convinced that the bull market is over. I'm not convinced that Bitcoin's going to nuke to 80K. I just don't see a reason for it. And knowing institutions have as much money invested as they do, I feel like they're going to step in and they're going to try to hold this thing up and they're going to try to hold up some of these support levels because they're fighting for their life right now, right? They're fighting for their life just to stay in this structure. So who's to say they won't at these macro levels of support? And it would make a lot of sense too, right? Because it would align well with our total two breaking back down towards, say, 1.29, right? We had the double top. The breakdown target for the double top is the bottom side of the golden zone. That would pull the altcoin market somewhere around these levels if Bitcoin does fall to 109, 106, or 103. And then, of course, that would allow for this bad boy to find some support and continue back up itself. All the stars would align in some capacity. And so for me, that's the gamble that I'm taking. That's the bet that I'm taking. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm not telling you guys to follow me. I'm not telling you to do what I do. I'm not telling you to do any of those things because at the end of the day, there will be a day where I'm wrong. And that is just going to be what it is. I don't care. And hopefully you don't care. But at the end of the day, what I do know is I have consistently bought the lows and sold the highs over and over and over again for months. I started documenting publicly when I was buying Bitcoin back in November of 2024. The red bubbles are when I'm selling, the green bubbles are when I'm buying. And as of today, I can go ahead and add another green bubble in because I did make a purchase just earlier this morning, a little bit bigger than the one I made the other day, right there. And as you can see, that's that. I have these moments sometimes where I do make these purchases, guys, and the market just goes down. But what I've come to realize is if I stick to my plans and my strategies and I continue to accumulate, even if it's falling, it will open up the door for me to take more profit and make more cash than I invested when I was buying. And so, yeah, Bitcoin might continue to fall. Guess what? I'm going to buy more, I'll buy more, and I'll buy more. And the goal and the plan, hopefully, is that it will recover and I will be able to continuously take those profits off the table. And so, again, it takes a different type of YouTuber, in my opinion, to be publicly transparent about when they're actually buying, what they're actually doing. So I hope you guys do like it. It is a little bit stressful sometimes because when I'm wrong, you guys get on my ass. But I appreciate the banter sometimes, right? And so that's what I'm doing. That's my plan. That's what I'm looking at here. And only time will tell how this works out. So I'll keep you updated as all this does play out. I am going to be traveling today, but I'll get where I'm going in a couple hours. Don't you worry. So I am going to still have some content going out. Obviously, this video and some more content over on Instagram. Guys, always feel free to follow me at TylerHillYT_. I post a bunch of stuff on like altcoins, Bitcoin, news, and much more over there. So feel free to follow me there. Don't forget, if you do trade crypto, you can go get up to $10,000 in bonuses when you exit this video. Go check that out. And of course, I hope you guys are having a great start to your weekend. But all in all, I hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out, everybody.